The textbook has an excellent chapter on writing paragraphs. I suggest that you go through that, do the exercises, and you will understand paragraphs much better. Uh, I'm not going to go through all the details, I'm just going to hit on a few highlights. So, we've talked about audience and purpose before, and this chapter talks about audience and purpose again. In this chapter, they refer to the audience as the receiver, but we've talked about knowing your audience, knowing their worldviews and values, knowing what kind of writing is going to connect with them, and that still applies. So when you're planning your paragraphs, really what you're trying to do is you're trying to communicate your ideas in the most effective way possible. So keep in mind that you, the sender or the writer of this document, you are not the audience, you are not the receiver. Your receiver or your audience does not have the same information in their heads as you have in your heads. In your head. So if you want to communicate effectively, you have to be thinking about how you can organize the information in a way that it's clear and it's not overly wordy, so it's concise, but sometimes concise doesn't mean really sparse. You need to have enough information so that you are communicating clearly. So the textbook poses really three good questions when you're planning what you want to write. What's the main point of the paragraph? That's your topic sentence. And then whatever comes after that has to be closely linked to that topic sentence. And again, the textbook has excellent resources, and the exercises that they give really walk you through this process. So then what information should I include to support that point? So that's the body of your paragraph. And then in which order should the information be delivered? And that's important as well, because again, you want to deliver your message effectively. This example comes from the textbook. Finding a family doctor in Northern Ontario is not an easy task. There's your topic sentence. That's what this paragraph is all about. In the first place, most family physicians already have huge practices. Statistics from the Sudbury District Health Unit indicate that the average Sudbury doctor maintains a practice with between 4,000 and 5,000 patients. A second problem is the age of those currently practicing family medicine. With an average age of 53, many family doctors are burning out under the strain of the work they are facing. Such burnout has several results: a reluctance to take on new patients, a desire to take time off or retire prematurely, the decision to withdraw from hospital privileges, and sometimes a willingness to move to another area where the workload is less onerous. Finally, Sudbury's family doctors often find themselves without specialists to whom patients with unique needs can be referred for more detailed diagnoses. For all these reasons, a newcomer to Sudbury is sure to face challenges in locating a family physician willing to take the person on as a new patient. So the textbook has included these handy-dandy markers. In the first place, a second problem, finally, and then for all these reasons. So let's just break it down a little further. So you can feel that all of this information ties directly back to the topic sentence. Finding a family doctor in Northern Ontario is not an easy task. So the way that they've structured this paragraph, you have an argument or claim, and then you have evidence supporting that argument or claim. Then you have a second claim and you have evidence. And then you have a third claim. And this one doesn't have supporting evidence. But if you were planning to expand on these ideas, you certainly could include that. And then there's a concluding sentence at the end. For all these reasons, and it's kind of like a little mini recap of everything that's been argued in the paragraph. So this is a well-structured paragraph. It's easy to follow. And this is what you want to do. You want to make your writing easy to follow for your audience. Now, I'm not a big fan of including all of these markers in here. The textbook has done this because they made an exercise out of this and they want it to be very obvious. But it is important that you do make it obvious one way or another. Now, a topic sentence does not have to come at the beginning of a paragraph, and sometimes a topic sentence can even be implied. But if you are the least unsure of your writing skills, and if you're not sure what that means, keep the topic sentence at the beginning of the paragraph. Don't try to do fancy stuff. So this is one way to do a paragraph. Now there's a lot of information in this single paragraph. So let's look at another approach. If you wanted to expand on these ideas, you could do that and still have the same structure throughout your piece. So um, what started off as the topic sentence might be the topic sentence for your introductory paragraph, and then you expand on that. The second the first argument or claim could be the topic sentence for a second paragraph, and then you could supply the evidence, and then you could expand on that. And then the same thing goes for the following two paragraphs, and then you could expand your conclusion as well. So depending upon the information that you're trying to get across, you can repeat this pattern over and over. Let's just go back to this second slide for a moment. I want to go through these claims so that you can really get a sense of how this is being laid out. Again, I want to stress that this topic sentence, finding a family doctor in Northern Ontario is not an easy task. I think sometimes writers think that a topic sentence is redundant because they're going to, in this paragraph, they're going to explain that finding a family doctor in Northern Ontario is not an easy task. That's what this paragraph is all about. But if we can give the audience, let's call it a heads up, this helps people who are faced with new information. This helps them to internalize that information. I already have a sense of what's coming. Finding a family doctor in Northern Ontario is not an easy task. And then I know what's coming next. Most family physicians already have huge practices. And then there's the evidence. Statistics from the Sudbury District Health Unit indicate that the average, and so on. So this way, the information is laid out in a way that's very easy for a reader to digest it. There shouldn't be a struggle for the reader to figure out what's going on. That's not our goal in writing, and this is especially true in business writing. In business writing, particularly, we really are often communicating with a broad range of the public, and we want to be able to communicate effectively with all of the people within that audience. So don't be confusing with your writing. Make sure that you are laying out your information in a logical way. So when you're doing your discussion forum in the coming week and a half, I think I gave you about a week and a half to do that, make sure that you are structuring your paragraphs in this way. Make sure that you start with a topic sentence. Now, you probably won't have 3 arguments. That's a bit much for the scope of that assignment. You might just have 1 argument, and that's okay. So you start with a topic sentence, and you've got your first argument right there, and then you lay out your evidence, and then you wrap it up in a way that's, a little bit different than the way you opened it, but it's interesting, and the audience has that satisfying feeling that you're finished. You've created a claim, and then you've backed it up with solid evidence.